Hey everyone, so we're actually in London today. I haven't really got a plan for this video. I did have a plan to use an app called Spots, where I was going to go to different spots that different photographers and people recommended that I should go to try and make the process easier when it comes to making these videos and taking photos. That I don't think is going to happen, so instead we're in London, we're going to take some photos and there might be a video that comes out of this, but we will see. Hey everyone, as you'll notice, we are no longer in London. We are of course back in the office. So London didn't quite go to plan. I had the idea of going around different spots to take photos using a photography app called Spots, which I will put in the description for anyone who's interested. And whilst I think that was going to be a great idea at the time, unfortunately things do change as they do in photography when you're out shooting. It's never quite as you always expected it to be. And on this occurrence, it was something I didn't think about, but given it was a Sunday and a couple of days before Christmas, once we hit sort of 12 o'clock, it got too busy. And by too busy, I mean people could not move, which means I could not take photos, of course, and it made it very hard to do any talking head like this. So we're back in the office and I wanted to think about some of the ways I could maybe create a video out of this, because I'm quite happy with some of the photos I did manage to take. Once especially I got down to some of the side streets, a bit quieter. So instead, I think what I'm going to do is turn this video into a bit of a minimal setup. It's a big thing for me and it's something I've talked about on this channel a few times, having minimal setups and the benefits of it. And as Christmas has now come and gone, a lot of photographers might have picked up new gear from Santa Claus. He is real, for any of the kids watching. However, I am still a fantastic believer in minimal setups and not taking all your camera gear with you. Hence why I own the Fujifilm camera I do at current. So in today's video, to cut a long story short, we're going to talk about minimal setups and what it might mean for you moving into 2025. So in the past, when I first started photography, I will admit I was guilty of packing all my camera gear with me. I bought a big rucksack from Moment, where it's called the Day Chaser, I believe. It was a collaboration with a photographer. And I used to take all my camera gear with me. Telephoto lenses, all my prime lenses, my gimbal, my drone. And at the time I wasn't even making YouTube content. I just took all my gear with me because I thought that's what photographers do. So my thought at the time when I was taking all this gear was, what if I need this? What if there's a particular shot that I see at first glance and go, oh, I need a telephoto lens. Oh, I need my prime. Oh, I could take some portraits here. Let me whip out my 56mm, 80mm prime, whatever that might be. But more than not, I would end up using one camera and one lens, which meant I was lugging around all this gear completely unnecessarily and just causing myself more back pain and general other pains in other areas. And that's where going to London for the day reminded me of why I started embracing minimal setups. Obviously, I've now got my Fujifilm X100VI. I use a DJI Pocket 3 to record all this content with. I sometimes don't even take this microphone with me. I'll take a small sling or a rucksack if I think the weather needs it. And that's it, that's generally all I take. Now, of course, there are limitations when it comes to just taking such a minimal setup, but I found for me 9 times out of 10, it's all I really needed. So why go minimal? Firstly, there's the physical benefits. Carrying less weight means I'm not exhausted halfway through a shoot. My back and my shoulders definitely thank me for that, I will say that much. Secondly, there is a creative side. With having fewer options, you start to work smarter. You're not constantly swapping lenses or overthinking settings. You focus on framing, lighting, and storytelling, which in my opinion is far more important. And since owning my Fujifilm, I've definitely had to think outside the box, given the fixed focal length that it comes with. When I first rock up to a site where I think, oh, I see a photo that a telephoto lens would be good at, or an ultra wide, it reminds me that that's just the first photo that I see in my head. It's now time for me to get creative and see what photo I can pull from this scene, whatever it might be, whether it's in the city or it's in the countryside, using this camera. So like we've spoken about, what is my minimal setup? For some people at home, it might be quite interesting that you might be able to mirror what I'm talking about here. But firstly, you might be able to see in the back, I've got that was a Christmas gift to keep tea warm for longer, because I normally drink it too fast because it gets cold, obviously. So putting it on that keeps it warm, and I can drink more tea, or the same amount of tea, just over a longer period of time. Anyway, let's start with the first thing in the setup. Again, this is not going to be a gear review at all, but just a really quick, what do I carry? Obviously, we've got the Fujifilm camera itself. Normally, I won't take the lens cap with me. Some people might be shocked, but I just leave it off because I've got my mist filter attached. If you've watched other videos, I've spoken about this, but this keeps the lens safe, obviously. So if I need to replace this, it's only cost me £30 instead of getting the camera repaired. I've got a little case on it. Obviously, the Fujifilm is not known for being the grippiest camera, so I have got a thumb grip and a leather case that has some grip on it. Again, another video showing that. Currently, I'm using this rope strap. Cost me about £10 from Amazon. Just like the feel of rope, and wanted to try something else because I've always used Peak Design straps throughout the year. So I just wanted to try something different. I'm quite liking how I can fold this up and use it. Next up, and something that I carry with me everywhere, is this little photography kit. This came with my Brevity jumper bag, and I take it with me primarily everywhere I go, and if I don't take this, I take things out of it that I'm going to use, keeping things nice and minimal. I've got some spare SD cards, I've got a USB-C to SD card reader, microfiber cloth, again some more SD cards, and that's really about it. I used to carry a SSD in here, but I found that I never actually got it out until I got home, so there was no point really carrying it around. I do carry a Lightning to SD card reader, as I'm still using a Lightning connector on my phone. Next up, let's talk about bags. I've probably gone through more slings than a lot of people. Currently, I'm using this one, and it's the one you'll see in the clips of London. This is not a camera bag. This is made by Outdoor Gear. I don't even think they're a company anymore. I picked this up the other day from TK Maxx. It was £9. And what I really like about this is, whilst I was in London, I was going around a couple of the different camera shops. And you look at the price of a new bag, it's £200, £300, whatever it might be. I'm scared to put it down. With this, we're out in London, we're on the tube, wherever we might be. I can fit all my gear in here comfortably, and it was £9. I don't care about it getting scratched or it getting wet or whatever it might be. So it's a really nice thought to have in mind. Again, when we're talking about minimal, gear doesn't always have to be new. I think there's something to be said for buying second-hand gear or buying cheap gear. There's nothing cheap about this bag. It's really well made. Obviously, I just bought it cheap, which means I don't care if I just throw it on the ground. However, I've got some other bags in my cupboard, which I wouldn't do that on purpose, just for this video. This setup works for me about 90% of the time. For what I shoot, this keeps things light, easy to carry, and keeps me focused on really matters, and that's taking photos. Don't get me wrong, I get it. There's always a what if feeling. What if you leave the lens behind that you wanted? But honestly, I found bringing more gear with me, I get more distracted. Being minimal makes me focus on the creative process of taking photos. When you rock up somewhere, when you've just got one camera, one lens, it forces you to really think outside of the box in terms of how you can get the photo that you've initially seen in your head, which may be using a telephoto or a wide angle, you would be able to get that shot quite easily. I will now show a few examples of different situations when I was out in London where I was forced to think outside the box a little, get a bit more creative, maybe get down on the ground, get high up, which if you're 6'4" like me is not hard to do. Whilst I think being minimal when it comes to photography is, I think I've seen quite a boom with it when I've seen other photographers talking about it. And it's something that I've strived for in the 4 years, 5 years that I've been doing photography. And it's nice to see other creators now kind of following suit. I don't think you should jump into it straight away. I think first, when you're looking at downsizing, you need to lay out your gear and you need to identify what are the must-haves. What I would recommend doing is once you've done that, take out those must-haves, try and track some sort of progress of what those must-haves are and how many times you use them. Because again, a lot of the time you'll think must-haves, like I've got in this little pouch, aren't actually always necessary. So maybe you could take those out and just use the ones that you really need. Secondly, I think when we're talking about cameras where you can have interchangeable lenses, look at your photos in Lightroom and see what lens you're using the most. It might be that you're using a 24-70 the most, you're using a 56mm prime the most, or a telephoto lens. And my light is dying. That's why we've just gone really dim really quickly. Let me change that a second. So like I was saying, yes, look at your Lightroom settings and see what lens and what camera, if you've got multiple cameras, that you're using the most. Because 9 times out of 10, that's probably all you're going to need when you're going out for a shoot. Of course, if you're a professional, it's nice to have different options. If you're with clients and stuff, that's a completely different topic. But for us hobbyists, I think we can normally get away with just taking the camera and lens that we use the most. So I would encourage you, try a minimal pack, maybe take a bit less gear than you normally would and see how you get on. Try and integrate it into the way you take photos and see how more creative you might become. If of course it's not for you, not to worry, some people just do love to take all their camera gear with them and have all their options. But do remember, I've had some occasions when I've been with other photographers where whilst I'm taking the photo that we're seeing as it's fast moving, they've kind of frozen whilst they're thinking about what lens, what camera to use and what settings to use, while I've already snapped the photo that I was quite happy with. And it's an interesting thing to see someone who takes all the gear with them versus someone who doesn't take enough gear with them, like me probably. So that's my take on minimal camera setups. Downsizing your gear doesn't mean sacrificing quality. It's about simplifying your process and focusing on what really matters when it comes to photography. And that's you. Let me know in the comments what would be your go-to minimalist setup, or if you're thinking of downsizing, what is one piece of gear you'd never leave behind. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos in the new year. Or if we are in the new year, watch more of my videos.